All right, here today with Tim Purpura, the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Minor League Baseball. Tim, thanks for coming in town and spending some time with us surrounding the Wharton Sports Innovation Conference.
I'm really glad to be here, particularly this first year. It's exciting for me to be around some interesting individuals and key figures in the sports industry.
So if you could start by just discussing some of your functions around minor league baseball.
Well, essentially, we don't have a large operation. We're about 40 people in St. Petersburg, Florida, and so myself and Pat O'Connor, who is our president and CEO, we're pretty much the core of what happens in minor league baseball as far as the decision-making process. And my areas touch really everything that has to do with minor league baseball. A big part of my role is to be a liaison with Major League Baseball. And Major League Baseball is as I call it, our only client. So I have great relationships there, work with people in baseball operations, people in the facility side, security, labor. So there's a lot of interplay with MLB on almost a daily basis. But I also get involved on the marketing side a little bit. Go out and see clients with our VP of marketing, which is a very interesting thing for me, having not been in that kind of role before. Work with the finance side. Legal is a big piece of what we do. We have 165 teams, which change hands, not on a real regular basis, but often enough where we'll have 5, 6, changes of ownerships in the course of a season. And so we get involved in that and talking with prospective owners and just what their interests are. We work on the baseball operations side. We work with farm directors and GMs when issues come up at our ballparks, and they do. As when you're running that many games a day, you get some issues. We also run the what we call the Professional Baseball Umpire Corporation, which is an organization that essentially trains, develops, and promotes umpires through the minor league system. And once they get to the AAA level, then Major League Baseball comes in and starts the supervision process and eventually chooses from that group who will become full-time umpires at the Major League level. So that's another area where we have a lot of interplay with Major League Baseball.
So if you could talk a little bit about, you just extended your working agreement with Major League Baseball through 2020. If you could discuss a little bit about that negotiation and the overall extension and what it means for minor league baseball.
Well, I'll start with what it means for minor league baseball. It means that we now have security and we have stability in our relationship with Major League Baseball through 2020, which is coming from where we were in 1990 when there was great unrest, when there was great division. Winter meetings were held in separate locations, and it was kind of a gloom and doom type of a situation where we just didn't have a very good relationship with Major League Baseball. Now that relationship has grown over the years, and particularly, I will say, since Pat O'Connor became president, his relationship with people like Jimmy Lee Solomon in the commissioner's office, our relationship with Commissioner Seelig, the people in minor league operations there, it really has grown and developed. And I think both sides now understand the value of having that partnership. We, on the minor league side, we get the best talent in baseball. We get the absolute best talent, the best product to put on the field. We get good relationships with farm directors. We have outstanding relationships there. But on the major league side, they get the best facilities really in the world for minor league baseball. One of the positives that came out of the 90 PBA was the facility standards that came up, that every facility had to meet a certain standard. And those facility standards have now allowed our owners to go to cities and municipalities and say, hey, we need a better facility. Major League Baseball expects better for their players, and we need to improve our facilities. And so they've been able to leverage that requirement to get the better facilities. And I think that has been a huge boon, not only to minor league baseball, but to Major League Baseball.
Can you discuss a little bit about the importance of affiliation with the appropriate club? If there's any impact given geography or any of the other dynamics that work and impact the success of that minor league franchise?
Well, I certainly think we're in an era of geography having an important role, but that is also a philosophical perspective that the individual club takes. Certainly in the Northeast, the Northeast clubs seem to really want to be close to geographically their teams. The clubs out west, it's a little bit different because we don't have that many leagues out west. The California League, the Pacific Coast League, and it depends on the level that they're at. But so there's some philosophy involved depending on where the major league team is geographically located. But that relationship to me, particularly having been a farm director, is incredibly important. To have and develop a good relationship between the major league team and the minor league affiliate. And we really looked at that relationship as a key to our success because you have an investment that you have in your 225 to 250 players you send out every year, and what you're looking for is somebody to take care of that investment for you, make sure that they play in, on a safe playing surface, that the lighting conditions are such that they don't injure themselves running after balls in a darkened environment, that the travel is taken care of in a positive way, that they're not in bad hotels in dangerous parts of town. So you really it's really like turning your kids over to a babysitter in some regards, to take care of them, and that's what it's like for a major league organization. You want to make sure that you have good people who understand the game, who are taking care of your players, and I've seen it both ways. I've seen it where I've been affiliated with organizations and teams that have great respect for player development, for the managers, the coaches, the trainers, treat them absolutely great. And I've had it the other way too, where I walked into a new facility one time, and all the fan amenities were beautifully taken care of. We walked in the home clubhouse, and it had barely been touched. There's a lot of room that needed to be a lot of room for things to be improved, and they were. But again, there's some philosophical differences in approaches that some of our teams take, and that frankly has been one of my roles coming over here, is to help educate our owners about the importance of that PDC, that player development contract relationship,
which are up for renewal in very short time frames as well.
Right, we do it on a 2-year cycle. So we just got through a cycle this past fall, and it really goes every 2 years. And we've seen an interesting trend with that, in that I think both major and minor league teams are feeling much more comfortable doing longer-term agreements. And once there's a fit and it clicks, they like to extend for longer periods of time. So this last PDC reaffiliation period went very smoothly. We had very few problems, and a lot of clubs extended early and for up to 4 years.
What do you think was driving that?
I think the security of the relationship, and also the quality of the facilities. You could I guess toss the dice, so to speak, and go into the process and try to upgrade your facility, or you could work with the current owner to upgrade some aspects of the facility, and I think our minor league owners have been very good at doing that. But it's kind of the known is better than the unknown type of situation.
So we tend to think about minor leagues as having 3 primary functions: the player development function, which you've spoken about, an entertainment function, and also a grassroots marketing function for the sport of baseball. In your instance, can you talk a little bit about the entertainment aspect as well as the grassroots marketing?
Well, certainly, minor league baseball. A lot of times, people don't know who the players are. With the players changing so often. So the entertainment aspect of it is huge, but it's also, I think, a part of the fabric of minor league baseball and the family aspect of minor league baseball. And we push the concept of affordable family fun. And it's, my prototypical day at the ballpark is you watch the families come in, they sit down, they've got their box seats, and their neighbors are sitting nearby. There's the banker, there's the guy who runs the grocery store, and it's neighbors talking with neighbors, and the kids are having something to eat, and then the kids get up and they go off to the rock climbing wall or the merry-go-round, or an area inside the ballpark where the families and parents can feel like the kids are safe, and there'll be no issues there. And it's that interaction, and I've been lucky enough to be involved in a lot of openings of new facilities, and I tell people all the time that when minor league baseball comes to a small town or city, or even a larger town or city, it changes it. It becomes a communal operating place. We have a team up in Troy, New York, the Tri-City Valley Cats, and from day one, the concourse was a gathering area. People sat in their seats and they watched the game a little bit, but they'd come up and they'd stand in the concourse, talk to the neighbors, have a beer, have a hot dog. It becomes a communal gathering place that you don't see it at the major league level because people are so focused, on the game on the field, which is great, and there's nothing wrong with that. But and as far as the grassroots piece of it, I think that's a role we all play in baseball, whether it's major league or minor league, is to help grow the game. And we've done some things. Locally, our teams have been terrific about working with the little leagues and sponsoring programs, bringing kids out to the park. Be the groundskeeper for a day or the GM for the day or that type of thing, and getting kids interested not only in the playing side but also other aspects of the game. So grassroots marketing is a key to what we do, and our teams do a tremendous job with that. From a central office point of view, we don't have to worry about those things because we know that that's important to them, and they take care of that job.
In minor league baseball, on the business side, one of the things that we've seen is the entry and in some cases the exit of somewhat of a conglomerate approach where you've got some consolidation that has occurred with ownership groups controlling a number of different teams across the various minor leagues. Can you talk a little bit about that dynamic and where you see that headed?
Right. Well, I think it's been in some ways an outgrowth of the fact that we've had tremendous franchise appreciation, and our teams have continued to grow from an asset value point of view. And when that occurs, the amount of capital required to acquire those franchises becomes quite high. So I think some groups have joined together and created partnerships and larger groups to aggregate capital to go out and selectively purchase those franchises. And we see it as a real positive. We see it as something that helps bring stability. It helps bring a philosophy that flows through those organizations. From a business point of view, it makes tremendous sense that they can aggregate and use their resources and their purchasing power can be consolidated, that type of thing. But it also is a good thing for baseball in that there's some stability there, and there's some groups that own 5, 6 teams. There's some that own 2 or 3. I think it's been interesting. Two phenomena that have occurred that I think are really interesting and very positive are the involvement of former players in buying teams, with Cal Ripken and Nolan Ryan, and also major league teams acquiring their own minor league affiliates. And the Braves are probably the best example of that. They really believe in that as a philosophy, so that they can retain quality over the operation. So, those are some interesting examples of things that have occurred on the ownership level.
You mentioned that one of the things you've seen is an increase in franchise valuations. As the transfer prices for the franchises have increased, it has forced teams to take on an increasing level of debt. Can you talk a little bit about the debt pressure that some of the clubs may be feeling and its impact on cash flow?
Well, it's certainly an issue, and it's certainly one that we try to track very closely. We have our own debt service rules, much like Major League Baseball does, and we monitor those on a regular basis. The interesting thing about some of these groups is that they don't always come in with a lot of debt. They have 4 or 5 or 6, maybe 10 participants as shareholders who bring cash to the table. So, it's an interesting dynamic in this day and age that there is a fair amount of cash in the clubs, but certainly that is something that I mentioned earlier about our role in the ownership transfer process. That is something we really seriously look at the beginning stages. Just what is the debt to equity ratio that is planned, and then also how that's going to be dealt with over the course of years. So, we've been, I guess minor league baseball has probably been concerned about that issue for probably 10 years, but there I think the concern is warranted, but it's also been heated, and clubs have done a good job in handling that debt. And with only, there's a few occasions where we've had some issues that had come up where, leagues would have to step in or minor league baseball would have to step in, but they've been few and far between.
Can you talk about some of the challenges facing minor league baseball now and over the last couple of years as we've been in the throes of the recession?
Well, it's interesting. Like sports to some extent, we have had our share of downturn, but because of our price point, we've had very little downturn. Last year we were down to 0.5 point, in attendance, which is, probably worth 10 points on the, in a good economy. But we're not recession proof. We feel like we're recession resistant. We have been able to resist it, and I really give the credit to the clubs because they have been very good about knowing their local marketplace and knowing what needs to be done to keep things affordable so that the families can still come out to the ballpark and not feel like they're sacrificing something somewhere else. And so I think that's been a big part of what we've done and why we've had some success.
So we're here in conjunction with the Wharton Sports Innovation Conference. Can you talk about some of the areas of innovation that you've seen in minor league baseball among the clubs and what seems to be working for those clubs?
Well, I think technology is creeping. Creeping is probably not the right word. Exploding is probably not the right word either, but it's somewhere in between. We are moving technology rapidly into the ballparks, whether it's being able to use an iPhone app to order food and then, pick it up in an express line, or even some of our clubs are experimenting with online fan polls of, what color uniform should we wear on Sundays and what time should the game times be. There's a lot of creativity going on, in technology. We have a partnership with Baseball Advanced Media, and we're now streaming, for example, all 30 AAA teams. We'll do live streaming. We've got a number of game day apps going on, and that's something that the fans have really enjoyed and asked for more and more. And it's I would have said 5 years ago, I would be surprised that we are as far as we are, but I think that the demand is there. We've listened to the demand, and we've really I think responded. And there's some very neat things going on, both with MiLB.com and MiLB TV.
Talk a little bit about the opportunities for MBAs and to enter into minor league baseball, and if the degree is the valuation of that degree within that segment.
Well, it's interesting as someone who has a law degree. When people call me and ask about getting a law degree to get into baseball, I basically tell them they ought to get an MBA because not that I regret getting a law degree. The law degree has been a great tool for me in baseball, but I really think the MBA gives you a much broader view of things. It gives you, particularly nowadays, more of an analytical exposure than certainly I got in law school, and I think that's what, particularly when you look at the organizations that have multiple teams, they're business organizations. It's not the mom and pop, ownership of a minor league team. It's a business venture, and it's something that I think the business degree will serve somebody well in those kind of roles.
Great. Tim Purpura, Chief Operating Officer of Minor League Baseball. Thank you very much for coming in and spending the time with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.